Erev Tov, Batay, Chodesh Tov. Rosh Chodesh tonight, B'ezrat Hashem, Ba'aleinu Tava. So it's coming now, Chodesh Nissan. So in Chodesh Nissan, we don't say Vidui and Tachanun at all. All the month, all the 30 days, we don't say. What's the reason for that? Because it's a month of Geulah, and it's always celebration. Something good happened every day. On every day of Chodesh Nissan, something good occurred in the history of the Jewish people. So what does that mean? If you look right in the history, things like, for instance, the Mishkan was built during this time. Was assembled during Chodesh Nissan. Dedication of the Mishkan, all kinds of things. Every day has a special occasion. That occurred. Something, some beautiful things. So that's why we don't say any Bidu in Tachanun, right, on Chodesh Nissan at all. The month of Geulah. It says in Midrash, by the way, that just like our forefathers, right, were redeemed, the Geulah was in Nissan. It's going to be the same thing again when Mashiach comes. The Geulah is going to be also in Nissan, right? Right, and just like it was, the Geulah was on the 15th of the month, it's going to be also the same thing again, right? 15th of the month. No other date is possible for this, for the Geulah. Only the 15th. So it says in Midrash, if somebody tells you, right, that the Geulah is going to be, there are some crazy, rabbis, they call themselves rabbis. They're money people, they're looking for money. They always tell people, Geulah is going to be next week. It's going to be next month, it's coming. Who told you these things? Why are you lying? Why are you saying sheker to people? Giving people false hope. You're a crook. You're trying to take money from people. That's what it is. These people. They're all money people. These people. They tell people all kinds of things. Yeah, it's coming. Next month. Yeah, everything is money. Business. It's not religion. This is business. What they're doing. These people. They trick people. They fool people into giving them donations. That's what it is. So that's why don't listen to these people, That's what it says in the Midrash. If somebody tells you the Geulah is going to be some other day, don't believe him, because it's going to be the same thing, right? Tet Vav Nissan is going to be the same thing like it was before. No other day is going to be possible.
Are you saying we're going to have another Pesach?
It's even more than Pesach, right? That's the thing, They say, right, that when the new Geulah comes, we're going to forget about Pesach already, because it's going to be something over covering it over. It's going to be so big. Pesach will be nothing compared to it. What I mean? So that's the thing, right? It's not going to compare. So that's the thing. So all the holidays are going to be nullified, at that time. We're going to have new holidays, right? That's the thing, So Pesach, we're going to say goodbye to Pesach. Bye-bye. Right? We're going to have a new holidays. Okay? That's in the future. We're not talking about that right now. But anyway, right, as we said, Chodesh Nissan, it's a beautiful month, the month of Geulah. So a person has to, accordingly, also you're not allowed to do things like, cry on, Chodesh Nissan, That's why they say, if you're gonna go to the Bet Kvarot, whatever, you're not allowed to cry, So don't, if it's gonna make you cry, don't go to Bet Kvarot, don't go to the cemetery, because you're not allowed to cry on Chodesh Nissan.
And on Shabbat too.
Yeah, Shabbat, of course, right. But, on Shabbat, nobody goes to the cemetery, right? I hope not. I hope they don't go. But, right, on Chodesh Nissan, they may think, well, I'm gonna go, have a yard side or whatever, but you're not allowed to cry, so that's the thing. It's a month of Geulah. It's all holidays, everything is, so you're not allowed to do that. Okay. So that's that. I want to tell you also something. It's a very special minhag, which is, by the Sfardim, especially by us, which is that Erev Pesach, which is going to be, this year, it's going to be Wednesday night, right? Am I right? Wednesday night. It's going to be Erev Pesach. So when we come to shul that night, and we do Mincha Arvit, right? If you remember, right? I don't have to remind you, but you have to understand exactly what this means, right? After the Arbit is finished, we do Hallel, right? With the bracha and everything, right? Ligmor ta Hallel. Right? We say the whole Hallel. Why do we say the Hallel, in the shul? This is according to Kabbalah, that they say that you're supposed to say the Hallel in the shul also. Not only, it's not enough that we say also at home. When we go home, it's going to be in the Haggadah. In the end, right after Birkat Hamazon, we do another Hallel over there, But nevertheless, even though we're doing another Hallel in the end over there, in the end of the Haggadah, still we have to do the Hallel also in the shul. It's two different things. One has, nothing to do with the other. Two different things, two different mitzvot. The thing is, that why is it so important? By the way, the reason is because it's a time of Geulah. The Geulah from Mitzrayim was at night. The night of Tetvav. That's when the Geulah really occurred. That's why we have to say Hallel also at night as well. That's the whole idea, you know. According to Kabbalah, this is considered to be a big thing, you know. It's a big deal. So that's why all the Sfaradim, you know, we all do Hallel like this in every shul, you know. Every shul, there's going to be Hallel. There are also some Ashkenazim that took on this minhag, you know. Once they saw, right, how beautiful this minhag is, according to Kabbalah, they said, oh, we should do it too, you know. So what happened was that the Gaon of Vilna also told his Talmidim, you know, let's start doing Hallel, you know, also. So he was Ashkenazi, but he wanted to start this minhag, you know. So he also started doing it. Also the Hasidim, they do it, you know, because of Baal Shem Tov. He also liked this minhag, you know. So the minhag started to spread a lot. You know, it became like a big deal. In Israel, many communities, you know, most of them are doing it. The only communities which are not doing it is the Litaim, you know, the Lithuanian Jews, you know what I mean? The ones, you know, the clean-shaven people, you know. They don't do Hallel in the shul. They only just do it in the Agadah, like everybody else does. But anyway, nevertheless, right, according to Kabbalah, it's a very important thing. That's our custom. So they say, you know, it's a very kadosh minhag. The Maran, Ovadia Roshon, used to tell us about this all the time, you know, how important it is. He used to stress, you know. So that's why he said that even the women should do it, you know, this thing. So what does that mean? They don't have to come to shul, you know, to say Hallel with us over here. We don't even have room for them over here, right? How many women can come over here, you know? Maybe 10, 15, that's it. We don't have much room over here. What are we going to have? Every woman in the community? It's not going to happen, right? So the thing is, you know, but Maran used to say, they should say it at home, you know, the Hallel, also the women. Before they start the Haggadah, they should tell them, you know, tell the ladies also. Say the Hallel. You know, some ladies, unfortunately, you know, they don't even know how to read, you know, whatever. They're not used to it, whatever. But if they know how to read, you know, and they can do it, they should. You know, right? Read the Hallel, just like the men. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's good, yeah. With, you know, even with a bracha, you know, we say with a bracha, which is an amazing thing, right? Just a minhag, but we say with a bracha. So that's the thing with the Hallel. It's a very important thing. Our custom is, you know, since we're in Chutz La'aretz, we also say the second night. Right? Not only the first night, second night also we say. What's the reason why we say the second night? The Geulah was in the first night, not the second night. So why do we say second night? The reason is because, you know, the Chazal tell us that because it's Yom Tov Sheni, right? You know, you're supposed to do exactly the same thing like you did in Yom Tov Rishon. Don't change anything, you know? So we do, like, you know, Yom Tov Sheni, it's like Yom Tov Rishon. The same thing, everything the same. No differentiation. Why is that, by the way? What's the reason why? Because in the old days, you know, when they had the Bet HaMikdash, what would happen was, you know, that the Rosh Chodesh was made by the Bet Din. It wasn't, you know, they didn't have a fixed calendar, you know. Oh, let me see which day is Rosh Chodesh, right? Oh, let me look over the calendar. It wasn't like that in those days. In those days, the Bet Din made Rosh Chodesh. How did they do it? Witnesses, exactly, right. He knows, right? So what happened? They would come, you know, two witnesses to the Bet Din, you know, and they would say, we saw the new moon, you know, we saw the moon just appeared. So they would, you know, interview them, you know, ask them some questions, you know, right? Make sure that they got the right testimony, make sure that their testimony is correct, you know, and if they would succeed, you know, they would make the Rosh Chodesh that day, you know, that's the way it was in those days. And if they didn't make it that day, automatically the next day it became, you know, the Rosh Chodesh, because you cannot have later than that, right? It's either one day or the other. It cannot be later than that. It's not possible. You know what I mean? Otherwise, the calendar is going to go off, right? You're going to have Passover in the winter. You know what I mean? It's not going to work out like that, right? So that's the reason why you're going to have snow in Passover, right? Snow. So that's the reason why nowadays, right? What we do is we have a fixed calendar, right? But in those days, since we weren't sure which day is going to be Rosh Chodesh, right? Like today, for instance, right? We know, according to the calendar, it's Thursday. But in those days, it could be also Friday. You know, when the Bet Din was around. It could be also Friday. So since we didn't know, it was also a doubt which day is Passover, you know? Because according to the Rosh Chodesh, right? If the first day, if Rosh Chodesh was Thursday, that means Passover is also Thursday. You know what I mean? If the Rosh Chodesh was Friday, Passover is also Friday. It goes according to that, right? So they weren't sure which day is the Passover. If it's Thursday or Friday. So what they would do in Chutz La'aretz, you know, where they didn't have a communication, you know, with the Bet Din, you know, in Yerushalayim, they were too far. They couldn't communicate with them. You know, now we have Baruch Hashem, we have telephone, we have email, we have WhatsApp, we got everything, right? In those days, they didn't have nothing like that. You know? So they couldn't reach faraway places, you know, to tell them which day was Rosh Chodesh. It was too far. It would take them like 2 weeks to get there, you know? Too late already. By the time they got there, it's already over. So that's the thing, So that's the reason why they made it that we keep 2 days, because of a safek, because of a doubt. We're not sure which one it is, But then what happened was they made a fixed calendar, right? They stopped doing with the bed din. So now we know exactly which day is Rosh Chodesh, right? We know it's tonight. It's not tomorrow night. We know. So then why do we keep 2 days? So we don't have any doubts anymore. There's no vapros. What? So why do we keep 2 days? What do you say? For what? What do you need it for? There's no reason for it. So you know what the Rambam says? He brings a reason for it, the Rambam.
To make sure.
To make sure. God bless you. Right? We are sure. That's the thing, right? Today we are sure. So the Rambam says, right, the reason why we keep it, listen to this. Smart. Rambam, so smart. He says, not for the goyim. He says that it could be, that one day there's going to be a lot of persecution, from the goyim. Like, right, they start persecuting us, and chasing us out from here, running here, running there, like they used to do, in the times of the Romans, times of the Greeks. They were chasing us everywhere. So what happened was, since they were chasing us, sometimes what happens is we lose our masoret, we lose our tradition, The calendar gets lost. And you don't have a calendar anymore. You're lost, you have to run over there, you have to run here, you have to run there. Your calendar is lost. You don't know now which day. So the Rambam says it could be, because of persecution, it's going to go back to what it was before. We're going to lose our calendar, persecution. So he says this is the reason why we have to keep 2 days, just in case, the persecution comes and we're going to lose our masoret. That's what he says. Nice, right? That's a simple reason, Mechila.
Pesach, 1 day in Israel, right?
Yeah, 1 day, of course, yeah, of course. In Israel. Just only here we have 2 days.
When we need to read Birkat HaLevanot? Today? Or we have a time? When? Exactly.
Birkat HaLevanah, according to Kabbalah, we do until Zayin, Zayin of the Chodesh, the seventh day. Now today's Rosh Chodesh, too early. Too early. You gotta wait till the 7th day, Yom Zayin. Next week, God bless. That's it, right? That's our minhag. But the Ashkenazim, they do even in Gimel. In Gimel they do. So they can do Moti Shabbat. They can already do Sunday. They can do. Yeah, make it up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We can do already Birkat HaLevanot.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that also women need to do it. Is that true?
No, women don't have the minhag to do Birkat HaLevanot. No, it's not necessary. Tell you something interesting, right? Regarding, since you reminded me, right? Birkat HaLevanot. The truth is, that if you can find it tomorrow in the morning, you should do it tomorrow in the morning. If it's already started to sprout, the trees, you go and check. They have, they have some trees around here, right? I heard the neighbor is over here. They also where?
On this side.
On this side, right? Yes. There's also Tama. They have over there. They have some fruit trees. Bet Knesset Tama. They have several places, right? So the truth is, I'm gonna go Billy Neder. If I don't forget, I'm gonna go tomorrow morning after Shachrit and see, right? If they sprouted already, I'm gonna make the bracha tomorrow. That's it, right? Why wait? Jizim Makdimim. Right? That Mechila, I'm sorry. Please. If you want to talk, you can go outside. No problem. Right? So, as we said, right? Birkat HaLevanah is should be done. I remember Maran Rabbi Shalom. His minhag was always, on Rosh Chodesh, Nissan, after Shachrit, he would go straight for Birkat HaLevanah. No waiting, until bed, Gimel, Dalet, no. First day. Jizim Makdimim, that he would go right away. The driver would bring the car, and he would drive him over, and they would do Birkat HaLevanah. The first day, Rosh Chodesh. Why wait? For what? What are you waiting for? Waiting for Mashiach? Mechila, yeah, Birkat HaLevanah, right, exactly. So Birkat HaLevanot, Maran used to do it right away. Birkat HaLevanah, as you said, next week, right? Mechila. As you said, next week. But this week, if you can do Birkat HaLevanot, try to do it now. Why not? Okay, great. So we understand that, right? So now, as we're getting back to what we said, right? That since we have 2 days of Yom Tov, the rabbi said, since we keep 2 days of Yom Tov in the Chutz La'aretz, like we said, right? This is the reason why we keep it. So they said, the rabbis, whatever you do the first day, you got to do the second day exactly the same thing, exactly. Don't make any changes. Why? Because it could be, according to what we said, right? The Yom Tov is the second day, but we already said, right, that nowadays, there's no safek, there's no vapros. So then what about that? Mechila, I'm sorry, sir, please. Please. as we said, right, that the second day has to be exactly like the first day. You know, I get distracted. You know, I get distracted. I cannot concentrate when you talk. You know, it bothers me. I'm sorry. Mechila, I'm sorry. So, as we said, right, second day, it's got to be exactly like the first day. But we just said, right, but wait a second. We said, right, now we know for sure which day is Rosh Chodesh. Yes, but, you know, according to Kabbalah, I gave you the reason of the Rambam, right, why we keep 2 days. Still, even though there's no vapros. But now, according to Kabbalah, there's also a different reason. You know what they say, right? That they said that the Chazal, on second day of Yom Tov, in Chutz La'aretz, you know, outside of Israel, they looked in Shamayim, you know, the rabbis, and they saw that there's Kiddusha, you know, on the second day also. In the Shamayim, there's Kiddusha there. In Eretz Israel, you don't have this Kiddusha, because Israel Yom Tov is only 1 day. But in Chutz La'aretz, there's a Kiddusha also second day. So that's why, you know, according to Kabbalah, this is the reason why we have to keep so 2 days, because there's Kiddusha also on the second day in Chutz La'aretz. It's a different situation in Chutz La'aretz, you know? Mechila.
I was thinking that since it was very far, let's say in Jerusalem and somewhere and other people all around it, they will send messengers to tell them that it's...
Yeah, they did that, but the problem is like this, you know? There were places where it took more than 2 weeks to get there, you know? Places which are far. So you're going to be late.
How they know which day is...
They don't know. That's the whole thing. That's why they have to keep 2 days. That's the whole thing. That's afek, vapros. That's why they got to keep 2 days. They don't know which day it is, right? Now we know everything. Baruch Hashem, we got everything. We have communication, you know. But in those days they didn't have. The person had to ride on the donkey, you know, and go there, you know, and right to reach them. You know, it took them. Yeah, Mechila.
Боря, я по-английски не могу сказать. Спроси у него, когда появилась Каббала. Он знает?
Сейчас не время для этого, это не по теме. Just asking when Kabbalah came out.
That's a good question. Oh. You know, somebody just the other day, 2 days ago, right? Somebody texted me, a friend of mine, you know, I used to learn with him, Chavruta. He asked me something similar to this question. You know, it's a very good question, by the way. When did Kabbalah come out? You know, so there are some people, he told me, you know, my friend, he says, I met some people, they don't believe in the Zohar, they don't believe in the Kabbalah. They don't believe in it, you know? So truth is, you know, that a person, I have to tell you one thing. The person who doesn't believe in the Kabbalah, doesn't believe in the Zohar, Maran, Rabbi Shalom, he wouldn't count him in the minyan. He would say he's a kofir. You know? He's a kofir. Why? Because that's a part of the Torah. If you don't believe in any part of the Torah, even if you don't believe one pasuk, you know, in the Torah, you believe everything, but this pasuk I don't believe. Something bothers me, this pasuk, you know? Something. Or this Gemara, I don't believe. Or this halakha, you know, I don't believe this halakha. I don't believe in it. If you don't believe one halakha, you're kofir. You know? The same thing. So if you don't believe in Kabbalah, you're kofir. You know, so why is that? The reason is because the Kabbalah was also given on Har Sinai. That's the answer to your question, right? We got it on Har Sinai. You know what I mean? Everything we got on Har Sinai. The whole Torah, everything, you know, from A to Z. You know what I mean? So what was that called when we got it on Har Sinai? It wasn't called Kabbalah in those days. They didn't call it Kabbalah. So, yeah, that's a part of the oral Torah, but there's a specific name for it. You know what the name is? Maaseh Bereshit, Maaseh Merkava. There's two different types of Kabbalah, right? These are the two. Right? In those days, they didn't call it Kabbalah. You know, they called it Maaseh Merkava, Maaseh Bereshit. So a person who learned this, you know, he had to learn it from his Rabbi, because you cannot learn this from a book. There's no way to learn from a book, the Kabbalah. You know, a person who tells you, by the way, you know, he learned Kabbalah in the book, tell him, you liar, you shakran. You cannot learn Kabbalah from a book. You have to have a Rabbi for that. You need a Masoret, right? That's the reason why they call it Kabbalah. You know why? Kabbalah, what does that mean in Hebrew? You receive it. What does that mean? You receive it from a rabbi. You cannot take it just by yourself, you know? Gemara, you can learn by yourself, you know? If you're smart, if you're very clever, you know, a very clever guy, he can figure it out by himself, you know? He's got books, you know, to explain. Kabbalah, there's no way to figure it out by yourself. You need a rabbi. So you know what it is, right? Here's the interesting thing, you know? There are some generations where there's no rabbi to teach you Kabbalah. There's nobody. There were some generations like this, you know?
Book for that?
You know? The book was not going to help you. You can't learn from Kabbalah from a book. So the thing is, you know, if you don't have a rabbi, right, and a Kabbalah, there's nobody to teach you. What do? How do you learn Kabbalah? You want to learn, right? You want to learn. You know, so what do? Right? So you know what the answer is? The Arizal said, Abba Shalom. The Arizal said, that if there's nobody to teach you Kabbalah, there's no Rebbe, you know how you get it? Eliyahu Hanavi has to come and teach you. Otherwise, you cannot get it. There's no other way. You have to get it from Eliyahu. Eliyahu comes, tells you, hey, how are you, my friend? I'm your new Rebbe. You ready to learn? He tells you. This is the way it is, Says where did the Arizal learn the Kabbalah? He learned from Eliyahu Hanavi. That's what it was, In Mitzrayim, Eliyahu Hanavi was coming to him over there when he was in Mitzrayim. He was in Egypt and teaching him Kabbalah. He was sitting there, for years in a room by himself, with Eliyahu Hanavi, and he was the one who taught him the Kabbalah. You cannot learn Kabbalah by yourself. No such a thing like that. Even the Arizal couldn't learn it by himself. No such a thing like this, So if somebody tells you, I'm Mikubal, I'm Kabbalist, tell him, you liar. I don't believe you, because who taught you Kabbalah? Eliyahu came to you? Who are you? Who taught you Kabbalah? What did you get? Maran Rabbi Al Shalom, as we know, right? I tell people all the time. Rabbi Al Shalom, he learned Kabbalah from who? From Rav Sharabi, who was the real Mikubal of this generation. He was the only real Mikubal. They say, that he was the top Mikubal. Rav Mordechai Sharabi, Al Shalom, So Maran went to him for 10 years, learned Kabbalah from him, 10 years. When did he go? Every Yom Shishi, on Fridays, right? On Yom Shishi, he used to go. Him and Chacham Ben Zion Abba Shaul. For 10 years they went, and learned Kabbalah from Rav Sharabi. Once Rav Sharabi passed away, you know what the Baba Sali said, right? He said, Kabbalah is finished, that's it, right? If he died, there's no more Kabbalah. Nobody knows Kabbalah like him. Nobody knows. That's the thing, So Maran used to say, he told us, I'll finish over here, I don't want to take you too long. Maran used to say, Abba Shalom, that his grandson, Yaakov Sasson, asked him one time. He says, Rabbi, should we learn Kabbalah, So the Rabbi, what he answered him? He says, if you going to my ways, don't learn Kabbalah, don't touch it. Why? So he asked him, why? Why not? What's the problem? So he said, the problem is I don't even know if there's anybody, after Rav Sharabi passed away, that knows Kabbalah in this generation. I don't know if there's anybody left that really knows it. That really, really knows it, 100%, like the Rabbi Sharabi. So he said, that's why don't bother with it, You don't even know if the guy knows what he's doing. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen. רבי חנין, שאומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לעזור לישראל, לפיכך חיבר להם תורה ומצווה שנאמר אדוני חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.